Okay, I'm Mitch Waite from MogollonMonster.com, and during the off season right now, my area is closed to all human traffic. The Forest Service has closed it down, and they do that every year due to the weather and the snow and so forth, so that they won't have to pull any rescues in the high country. But so in the off time, I thought I would do a little bit of stuff about Bigfoot preparations, and one of them is how to basically do a pristine foot job or a foot cast. A lot of times when you're out in the wilderness, you run across a footprint, and in most cases it doesn't really matter how crisp you make it, because it's in medium or gravel that doesn't show a lot of detail. However, sometimes you find a footprint that's in sand, very light sand, or very light dirt. And if you want to be able to preserve things like dermal ridges and so forth, there's a trick to casting the footprint. What I have here is a footprint that is made, it's a human footprint, but this is for display purposes only. We're going to cast it to see how well it does. It's cast in light sand, and so we're going to go about trying to cast it without distorting the sand and getting a pristine footprint. Now, what I have is what you should carry in your CSI bag. I call it a CSI bag because it contains all of the stuff that you need out in the field. But this is Fix-All.
Fix-It-All can be purchased at any home club like Home Depot or Lowe's or anything like that. It comes in a 25-pound bag.
In a freezer bag, and I usually carry a couple of these so that if I run into a footprint, then I'm ready to rock and roll trying to take the footprint. Then of course you always carry water, not only for drinking but for casting your footprints. And another thing that you might want to take with you is a can of spray latex paint. Now this particular stuff here, it doesn't matter what color it is, just so long as it's latex. And what you're going to use this for is to set the footprint to where it'll be able to handle the plaster. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm taking the spray paint and I'm going to lock these granules of sand into place. Now you don't want to get too close with spray paint, so you want to just kind of hit it from quite a ways out for your first area. And what you're going to do is after you spray it down a little bit, you're going to let it dry totally. Okay, we've laid our first layer down. We're going to put another one down, but to make sure that the paint is ready to go, just put your finger on it and see if any of it sticks to your finger. Very little does, and so we're going to go ahead and hit it with a second layer. Now at this particular time you can get a bit closer because the actual sand has been locked into place by the first layer. So now we're going to lay it in there a little heavier so that the paint will actually hold it a lot better. This is after the footprint has received a second coat of paint, and we're going to have to let it set up and harden fairly well. So out in the field when you're doing this may take quite a bit of time, so be prepared to spend some time with your footprint. Okay, next step after it's hardened, we want to check to make sure it's hardened, and when we reach in and touch it with a finger, you'll feel how hard it is. It's not real super hard, but at least it will hold the sand or the mild dirt in place while you're pouring your mixture of Fix-It-All. So right now we're going to mix up some Fix-It-All. I'm going to start with a little bit of water here in my bag. And in the field, this is really useful to be able to have it in a bag like this. Now I'm going to purposely mix it a little bit soupy, because we want it to get into all of the nooks and crannies to be able to hold or pick up any dermal ridges or anything like that. Now, of course, this end may be a little bit hard to be able to get that in there. But what I'm going to do now is just continue mixing it up until it's just the right consistency, and it's going to take a while to get all the lumps and bumps out. Okay, I've got it pretty well mixed up now, all the lumps and bumps out of it. You might have to work at it a little bit, and you want it to the consistency of a little bit runnier than what toothpaste is, because you want it to be able to pour out. Now the technique I'm going to use here is actually taken from cooking shows, where they've used bags for dispensing icing on the cakes and so forth. So we've got this bag, it's all mixed up. Take one of the corners and a pair of scissors, clip the corner off. Okay, now I'm going to take and pour it in. And you'll notice how easy it moves along, and we're not disturbing any of the pieces of sand or anything like that. So you want to make sure you fill it up real good all the way around. Oops, there's a little bit of a blob right there, but we've already got most of it in there, so we can be a little bit more generous with it. Okay, and now we sit and wait for the rest of it to harden up. Now the reason why I use Fix-It-All instead of plaster of Paris is when this hardens, it's hard, it's very durable, it does not break very easily. Plaster of Paris, you make the wrong move and it cracks. So one thing you want to do is lay the plaster in thick enough to where it's going to give it a good base so that it won't crack. It may seem like I'm putting a little bit more on than what's necessary, but it's okay. It's better to have a little more plaster on your footprint than not enough and you crack your footprint in half. Okay, once it's fairly soft, still fairly soft, you might want to take and date or scratch a date into it. Today's the 8th. Of 2013. There might be some other information that you want to put on there, such as the time of day or GPS points. However, if you're very, very careful or paranoid about giving away your locations, don't put GPS points on your footprints, because other people will handle them and see the GPS points. But you know, that's kind of some of the things you can do. If you put GPS points on it, you can always take a piece of tape and put over the points if somebody else is going to handle your footprint in your presence.